Welcome to a special edition of The Lens, coming live from Copperbelt Zani Studios, and I am your host, Tovin Ngombe. And on today's program, I'm featuring the National Prosecution Authority Chief State Advocate, Ms. Nkumbiza Mumba. Welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Ngombe. Good evening, viewers.
All right, viewers, we are also live on Zambia News and Information Services Facebook, so you can follow us and give us your comments on how the program will be going on. To begin our program, tell us, ma'am, about the National Prosecution Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Ngombe. Firstly, I'm glad to be in Ndola. Ndola is my hometown. I have a very soft spot for the city. Well, the National Prosecution Authority was established by Section 3 of the National Prosecution Authority Act, number 34 of 2010. Before its creation as an authority, it used to be a department in the Ministry of Justice, the DPP's chambers, or the Directorate of Public Prosecutions in the Ministry of Justice. Then in 2013, that's when the National Prosecution Authority was actualized and started operating as an authority.
All right, maybe you can even tell us what led to the establishment of the National Prosecution Authority. What gaps were seen for to come with this authority? Okay,
like in the world over, it was felt that there was need to delink prosecutions for the prosecution function to be delinked from mainstream government. And the main reason was to ensure objectivity. There's always this perception that when you are in mainframe government, there's a perception that there could be undue influence on the prosecution service. So because of that, it was felt that there was need to delink it for it to be more responsive to the needs of society, as well as to operate effectively, as opposed to being a department of the ministry. So basically to establish autonomy of the institution.
All right, and maybe you can tell us briefly from the time it was established up to now, how have been your work? How is your work now?
Okay, I just forgot to mention the main function of the authority basically is as stated in the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia. It basically carries out the constitutional mandate for criminal prosecutions. As you are aware, all criminal prosecutions in Zambia are under the mandate of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And the National Prosecution Authority is the office under which the DPP carries out his or her mandate. So after it was established, we have the DPP who's in charge, as stated in Article 180, Sub-Article 1, the DPP is the chief prosecutor of all crime in Zambia. And as such, the role is to ensure that we conduct prosecutions on behalf of the public. So after its operationalization, even before, we carry out all prosecutions in Zambia. And then we supervise other prosecutors that are in other institutions that conduct prosecutions on behalf of the DPP. And we have been carrying out our mandates, I believe effectively. Of course, it's the public to gauge our effectiveness, but from where we stand, we're making quite good progress in executing our mandate to prosecute.
All right. Maybe you can share with us also what are the values for the National Prosecution Authority in ensuring that they carry out their mission in prosecuting criminal matters?
That's a very good question, Mr. Ngombe. As you are aware, the mission statement for the National Prosecution Authority is to be to provide prosecution services in order to contribute to a crime-free Zambia. Of course, if we want a crime-free Zambia, we need to abide by certain core values that should inform the way we carry out our mandate. I'll mention 4 of the functions that are our core values. The first one is integrity. We can't carry out the prosecutorial function without integrity. The mandate, the decision to prosecute is a very weighty responsibility because it affects an individual's liberty going forward after they are arrested. So we need to be an institution that has members of staff that have integrity for them to carry out their mandate. Then we also ensure that we are fair in the decisions we make. So our other value is that of fairness. We have to make decisions in a fair manner, regardless of who is involved. Our mandate is that we have to do it fairly. Then we have to be transparent in the way we make our decisions. It's not, we don't make decisions haphazardly, but we follow certain guidelines. And where possible, circumstances of the case permitting, we have to be transparent in the way we make decisions to the members of the public that we seek to serve. And then we have to be accountable in the way we carry out our mandates. The other value is predictability. Members of the public should know that a decision made in a given set of circumstances, if a similar situation arises, the decision is likely to be the same. Hence, predictability of the decisions that we make. I think those are the key values that I'll highlight for now. There's the other important value, which is teamwork. And teamwork, it's teamwork within the authority itself, in the way we work, as well as with our stakeholders that we interact with. Our most key stakeholders are law enforcement agencies. We prosecute the work that they do. So we need to work as a team, even with law enforcement agencies, in the way we interact. So in brief, those are some of the values that we hold dear as the National Prosecution Authority.
All right, those are very good values. Maybe at times in court, what makes maybe leads to the cases to delay or to be to finish or to be presided over within a short period of time?
Okay. Yes, indeed, we would want to finish cases as quickly as possible. But of course, as I've indicated, we need to be fair, we need to be transparent, and we need to work with our colleagues, especially law enforcement. So sometimes it's not possible to rush cases to court. Our role, we are not investigators, but we do provide guidance to law enforcement agencies in the conduct of investigations. So there are times when it so happens that after they conclude their investigations, they submit the docket to our office. We go through the docket. We realize that the evidence, the way it is, it's not possible to successfully prosecute. So in order to ensure that we have all the evidence available on the file, sometimes we do send back the docket so that certain areas could be worked on. But of course, we only do that after we perceive that there's a prima facie case established by the evidence that is already presented to us. That's when we would send it back so that they only work out a few issues. Remember, for us in the interest of accountability, we are accountable to the public. The work we do safeguards society. As you heard from our mission statement, our role is to contribute to a crime-free Zambia. And therefore, where we feel an offense has been committed, it is our duty to ensure that lawbreakers are brought to book. And we can only effectively do that if the evidence is as good as possible. So that we are confident that when we take a matter to court, we are confident that we'll secure a conviction. So that is why sometimes there are those perceived delays in the conclusion of matters. And then the other reason is that even where we go to court, we have different stakeholders in the system. We have the judiciary, we have witnesses that we depend on to present our evidence, as well as law enforcement themselves. So sometimes we can be in court, but then due to different circumstances, it may be impossible to commence trial. Imagine a situation where we are ready to proceed. There are some areas in our country where this time in the rainy season, it may be difficult for us to secure attendance of witnesses. And accused, it's easy for them to come to court because in some instances, they could already be in custody. So it's easy to just drive them to court. But then to bring witnesses from where they are, it could be possible that the roads, because of weather conditions, the roads may be impassable. And because of that, we may fail to bring witnesses to court. And without witnesses, unfortunately, we can't proceed into trial. So sometimes those are some of the issues that lead to delays.
All right. Also, how does the criminal justice system operate from a time a criminal offense is reported to the National Prosecution Authority?
Okay, very interesting question. Be prepared, the answer is likely to be long. So, from the time a matter is committed, of course, criminal offenses are committed in the community. So after someone commits an offense, they report to law enforcement agencies. Mostly, the most common is the Zambia police, or if it's drug-related or money laundering, they would report to Zambia police, Drug Enforcement Commission, and the other law enforcement agencies that we have. After that report is made, the law enforcement agency conducts investigations based on the complainant's statement, what we can loosely call the complainant. But of course, in criminal matters, the real complainant is the state. So that's why if you note, criminal cases are the people versus someone, the one who's offended, signifying that the real complainants in criminal offenses are the people. Yes. So once the complainant, quote unquote, reports a case, investigators carry out investigations. They open a docket where they compile all the evidence that they collect. So after that docket is compiled, when they are satisfied that the evidence is good enough, then they're supposed to warn and caution the offender and then effect an arrest. So after an arrest is effected, that's when they transmit the docket to the National Prosecution Authority. We have offices in 63 districts in Zambia, so they can forward the docket to all those districts where we have presence. So there's close coordination between law enforcement officers and our officers in all the districts that we have presence. Once that docket is received, we go through the evidence, as I said earlier, to satisfy ourselves that the evidence is sufficient for us to proceed. And then when we are analyzing the sufficiency of the case, we have recourse to set guidelines that we go through. We have a prosecutor's manual that guides the steps that are taken. So the first stage when we are looking at a docket is we have to look at the evidence, which we call the evidential burden. So the evidence on the docket has to satisfy the evidential burden. There should be sufficient evidence to at least provide a prima facie case. And then after we establish that, then we have to inquire or make a decision whether it is in the public interest to prosecute or not to prosecute. Then only after these two thresholds are met, that's when a decision is made that the matter proceeds to court. So when we make that decision, then we prepare the indictment or the charge sheet, which we then present to court. And then after we present that charge sheet or indictment, that's when the accused now appears in court as an accused for explanation of charge as well as the taking of plea. So depending on the case, if it's a case triable by the magistrate court, there are two possibilities when a person goes to take plea. It's either they will admit or they will deny the charge. So where the charge is admitted, then the facts will be presented based on the evidence that we have. We'll prepare a set of facts that will then present to court, which facts tend to show that an offense the accused is charged with has been established. So that would be the end. The person will plead guilty to the charge. The facts will be read. If they accept the facts as stated, then they'll be convicted and the court will proceed to impose the sentence. The other option is that the accused will plead not guilty to the charge, in which case the case will now be set down for trial. So a date will be agreed on for the commencement of trial in agreement with the defense, the court, as well as the prosecution. And then we'll go through the processes. Trial will call witnesses. After the prosecution finishes the evidence, if the accused is found with a case to answer, which means if the court is satisfied that there's a prima facie case or there's sufficient evidence warranting that an accused gives a statement or something, or that if the accused remains silent, the court is able to convict, then the accused will be placed on what is called being placed on defense. Then after that is done, the accused now will be given a chance to present their evidence as well, possibly as to what caused them to commit the offense, or most instances just deny that they didn't commit the offense. The accused will also have an opportunity to even call witnesses to support his or her case. Then after that process, it's now time for judgment. The court reads the judgment. If there's a conviction, then there's mitigation. After mitigation, there's sentencing. After sentencing, it depends if the accused or even the prosecution, if we are not satisfied, both parties can still appeal. In our case, as the prosecution, mostly would not be satisfied. Perhaps we are not happy with the sentence that has been imposed, or we feel there's some matter of law that we feel was not properly addressed by the convicting court or the sentencing court, then we can appeal against that judgment. And that is because as the DPP can only appeal on points of law and not on points of fact. Then alternatively, the accused can also appeal against conviction or against the sentence. Yeah. So after appeal, of course, the case is heard by an appellate court. So the process I've given is for matters triable by the subordinate court. Okay. Yes. So for capital offenses, what we call capital offenses, offenses that are triable by the High Court. For those, that time when an accused appears for explanation of charge, it will not proceed to take plea, because plea will then be taken in the High Court, which is the trying court. So at that stage, our office is supposed to issue a certificate of committal, committing that the accused be tried to the High Court. After that committal is done, the court commits the person for trial to the High Court. Then the process will proceed as I indicated in the subordinate court.
All right. Well, viewers, if you have just joined us, you are watching a special edition of The Lens coming live from Copperbelt Danis Studios, and I'm your host, Tovin Ngombe. With me in the studio, I have the National Prosecution Authority Chief State Advocate, Ms. Nkumbiza Mumba, to explain what they do, what the National Prosecution Authority is all about, and the works that they are doing, especially in prosecuting criminal matters. Well, Madam, we can go ahead with our discussion. Why is you are now having a program here on the Copperbelt? What led to the establishment of the Interagency Cooperation and Coordination Framework that will be launched here on the Copperbelt province? Thank you so much. Very interesting question once again, and thank you for that question. Viewers, the Interagency Framework is an initiative that was actualized in 2021. So for those that would remember, during the launch or during the national address by the Republican President in the 13th National Assembly, during the ceremonial opening, His Excellency the President made some policy guidelines that included some guidelines to law prosecution, to the criminal justice system. And in his speech, he made reference to the need to establish asset recovery mechanisms, as well as the establishment of fast-track courts. And so after that pronouncement was made by His Excellency the President, he guided that a task force for the recovery of assets be made. And that's how the interagency framework came into fruition. Because as a result of that pronouncement, it should be remembered by members of the public that criminal investigations are very complex. And when we are talking about financial crimes and asset recovery, it's very dynamic and multifaceted. They are not very easy investigations because we are dealing with people that have the financial muscle, people that can hide their illegally gotten assets or finances, even in foreign jurisdictions. So because of that, it was felt that it's not possible to fight financial crime without the involvement of all stakeholders in the criminal justice system, as well as collaboration with international bodies and organizations. So because of the complex nature of those investigations, it was felt that we needed to work as a team so that we pool our resources together, not only resources, but ideas as well, so that we sit as a team in the pursuit of a common goal to ensure that we recover illegally gotten assets from all lawbreakers. So as such, we came up with the interagency coordination framework. So at inception, in 2021, when it was launched in Lusaka, it comprised of 16 members. Mostly, it is chaired by the Director of Public Prosecutions, who chairs the steering committee of the interagency framework. And then the other members are all law enforcement agencies,
The ones I mentioned, the Zambia Police, Anti-Corruption Commission, Drug Enforcement Commission, the Department of National Parks and Wildlife, and others, as well as all the other stakeholders that are involved, especially in the issue of assets. So some of the key institutions that are not clearly in the criminal justice system as law enforcement agencies, but they are key. Places like the Road Transport and Safety Agency, RATSA, Ministry of Lands, PACRA, those are key, as well as institutions like the FIC, the Financial Intelligence Center. It's those people that know exactly what is happening in the system. So it was felt that sometimes it takes long in these financial investigations for law enforcement agencies to carry out their investigations. So it was felt that if we all work as a team, then cases will be investigated in a most efficient, cost-effective, as well as in a fast manner. As you are aware, our president emphasizes on the need for investigations to be done before an arrest is made. And so because of that, there's need that all stakeholders work together. So that's how the interagency framework was formed. Right now, there are now 21 institutions that are represented on the interagency framework. So the interagency framework has the decision-making body is the steering committee, which is made up of the heads of all the institutions that are represented in the framework. Then there's the technical committee, which discusses and deliberates on issues that are then forwarded to the steering committee for consolidation as well as for the final go-ahead. So after this interagency framework was started, a lot of work has been going on. The technical committee meets every month to discuss cases of interest and give insight in how best they can be worked on so that they are ready to be presented to court in the shortest possible time. And of course, pulling all resources together that the very best evidence is collected. And then that mandate is carried out by setting up ad hoc committees of the committee. So we have different committees based depending on the case that is being pursued. And the representation on that subcommittee will be the relevant institutions that are key in the gathering and collecting of evidence related to a specific case. So from its beginning, we've noted that we've scored some very key outcomes, very good successes. For those that are very in tune with what's happening around, there have been a lot of asset forfeitures that have been done in the recent past. Most of those were the result of this interagency coordination, the work of the teams that have led to those asset recoveries that have been made. You note that last year, I think we forfeited more than $34 million worth of property, which is unprecedented in Zambia. And a large part of that was a result of the work that was done under the auspices of the interagency framework. Yes. So because that framework has only been mostly in Lusaka, we thought now that going forward to enhance effectiveness and to run through with the government policy of decentralization, it was thought that we need to decentralize even the functions of the interagency framework to the provinces. So the first provinces that have been identified is the Copper Belt and Northwestern Province. So that is what has brought us to Ndola today, because we'll be doing the launch of the interagency framework, Copperbelt chapter, tomorrow, the 10th of February in Kitwe. And then later in the week, we'll be launching another chapter in Northwestern Province in Solwezi.
All right. Maybe why is the collaboration among agencies important in building confidence in the criminal justice system?
So it's very, very important. As I stated earlier, we need to, as law enforcement, we need to work in a coordinated manner. There's always this issue of limited resources, especially financial. Investigations are very expensive in certain instances, especially financial in nature. Financial investigations sometimes can be very, very expensive. And so leaving that mandate to one institution, it may not yield the results that we hope to yield. Because of sometimes limited funding, it may be difficult. So if law enforcement agencies are working together, they're able to pool their resources together, as well as their members of staff, so that together they work in the most efficient manner. That way, cases will be investigated quickly, more efficiently. The coordinated work that is done as a team will yield better results. And the better results that the public see there, the more confident they will be in the criminal justice system. And the more we'll go towards that crime-free Zambia that we all want to have.
All right. This comes also, how are the assets that are recovered from individuals who acquired them through corruption being disposed of?
Okay, well, that's a very interesting question, and sad to say that asset management is still an area that we are struggling with. But for the time being, as you are aware, all state assets vest in the Secretary to the Treasury. So once these assets are forfeited to the state, then they are in the control of government. If it's money, if it's straightforward, it goes to the famous Control 99, which is the government's revenue account. It goes to that account, but when it comes to real assets, property, vehicles and the like, they still vest in the Secretary of the Treasury. We hand them over to the Ministry of Finance. And then under the Ministry of Finance, there's the Committee of Survey now that has been set up to look into how best these forfeited assets can be disposed of. So depending on the nature of the assets, the Secretary to the Treasury, through the Committee of Survey, they now allocate, in most cases it's back into law enforcement, so that law enforcement is further equipped to fight financial crime. So that is how sometimes it is used. It's sometimes given back to law enforcement, or indeed other needy government departments and ministries, as well as the community themselves. As you know, for us to effectively for the public to have confidence in the system, the public have to benefit from the assets that are recovered. So in some instances, it's given back to communities. We've had incidences where, like food materials, which are perishable in nature, sometimes there have been instances where they've been given to community schools, to the Zambia Correctional Services and like organizations, so that even the public themselves, from where these ill-gotten assets were gotten, also benefit. We also some of the assets are even given, it's envisaged that they can also be given to other stakeholders, like the stakeholders that take care of our vulnerable persons in society. We have a challenge of things like safe houses in the country. So some of the assets that are being gotten will be channeled towards that. Or if it's the issue of rehabilitation centers. So that's where some of these assets will be put to use so that they go to benefit the public from which they were stolen. So that's how they are being used currently. But we hope going further, we'll have a body that will be able to administer these assets. Sometimes even institutions themselves, if the asset is a going concern, it's managed on behalf of the state. I'm sure some of the viewers may have heard of some farms that are being run on behalf of the state by institutions like the Zambia National Service. So, but the end result is that those recovered assets should benefit the people of Zambia. That are the real owners of those assets that were illegally gotten from them.
All right, thank you so much. As we come to the end of our program, what should the Zambians, especially after the launch of the interagency cooperation framework on the Copper Belt, expect from the agency, from these state agencies that have come together?
They should expect coordination, enhanced coordination, as well as more effective investigations. I'm sure they will notice soon that there are more assets that will be recovered within the Copper Belt. We are likely to report more on some more assets that are likely to be recovered on the Copper Belt, especially visibility. We hope that the public, or especially on the Copper Belt or Northwestern Province, will be able to see a marked improvement in the way financial investigations are done, so that the public can benefit in the efforts that the government is making to fight crime. As you are aware, we have there was the launch of the fast-track courts, and most of investigations that are done under the auspices of the interagency framework are tried in these fast-track courts. And Copper Belt has fast-track courts that are based here. So the public will see more activity in the area of asset recovery in the province.
Thank you so much. Well, viewers, this has been a special edition of The Lens, coming live from Copper Belt Zanisa Studios, and I have been your host, Tovini Ngombe, and I was featuring the National Prosecution Authority Chief State Advocate, Ms. Nkumbuza Mumba, who was able to explain what the National Prosecution Authority is doing to ensure that all the criminal matters are prosecuted effectively for the justice to prevail. And it has been a pleasure, Madam, to feature you on this program, and wish you the best stay here on the Copper Belt as you also launch the interagency coordination committees, or the program that you are putting up here on the Copper Belt also. Thank you so much for making an appearance on the program, The Lens.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ngombe. We are really privileged to be here.
Thank you so much.
We hope to have another opportunity to chat.
All right, and on behalf of my technical team, we are saying bye-bye. See you next time on the special edition of The Lens. Once more, he coming from Copper Belt Zanis Studios. Bye-bye.